What's up, everybody? I'm Nick Taylor with the Crafty Gents, and today we're at Sleeping Giant Brewing Company in Thunder Bay, Ontario, and we're joined by Kyle Mulligan, who is the owner of Sleeping Giant.
First beer in our flight's Hoppet, which is a West Coast IPA. One of the first IPAs we made at Sleeping Giants. We made it at the old facility. It's kind of gone through a couple of different iterations with hops over the lifespan, but past couple of years it's been pretty settled on some really North American, piney, juicy hops.
The staple of the West Coast hops, right?
Yeah, and a little bit of caramel malt, back things up.
Sweet. Try it out. Cheers. Thanks for having us here.
Cheers. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, you do get a lot of the pininess and then the caramel on the end too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty standard for old school, not super old school like the East Coast, but
right.
Old school 20 years ago.
So you guys have been, how long have you been in this location for?
So we've been here since 2016, so going on 3 years.
Right.
And started producing November 2016, and then 4 years at our old location before moving.
It's almost 7 years, and that seems like a pretty long time. But how much has Sleeping Giant changed or grown over that time? Like when you think back to when you first originally opened at the old location.
Yeah, we've grown quite a bit. A lot of different aesthetics. The plan was kind of there when we opened up, but we opened up on a budget. So the initial plan was just make beer, get Thunder Bay on board with craft breweries, and then slowly get them interested in other beers that we were making. So even at the old site, we kept adding tanks, but couldn't do much there. It was packed full. So just had a storefront in production and started looking at buildings probably 3.5, 4 years ago. Found this one. Sport Top was moving out, and it's kind of the perfect fit where we could finally get a tap room going, get people in drinking our beers.
Right. Has, like, when you think about when you started and you think about where you're at now, has it like wildly exceeded your expectations of where you thought it could go?
To a certain degree, to parts of it, it's, wow, this is what we wanted to do with production. We wanted to keep scaling up, start canning. Didn't know where we'd end up distributing.
Right.
So that's a little bit of a excitement there, but we're in Manitoba as well as Eastern Ontario. But I think the biggest surprise is the size of the storefront plus our tap room. Because I think we were just envisioning a small little place where you just kind of coming in and drinking beers. But you get in the place and everything kind of comes together. You try and get that open concept feel.
Right.
And then just kept expanding on that.
That's cool.
So
you guys recently celebrated your 800th beer release, right? And you have a core lineup of beers, like includes the Northern Lager, 360 Pale Ale. Do you have some that when you look back, you're like maybe ones that you brew seasonally or as one-offs that maybe don't get the pub they deserve?
Yeah, well, and part of that is we're actually trying to dial things back. So some people, it's funny, your customers. So your customers, everyone has unique tastes and everybody loves different beers. And so we do Armory in the spring, and we started in the spring because we were doing a beer and Beethoven event. So we made a Scottish ale. And then we had to have it year round because everyone liked it. And I'm like, and this year I'm like, well, I'm dialing it back. We're just gonna have it just in the spring. That way people start to look forward to it again. Same with Bay Street. Bay Street's the fall one. People miss it, but I'm like, well, it's going back to fall. That's it. Other than that, I think seasonal stuff kind of ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And everyone loved pumpkin ales 5 years ago, but it starts to come down. But we still want to keep that going,
Right?
Because some people just love it. I think the one big one that would probably fly the whole year would be our coffee vanilla porter, Snow Goose.
Nice.
But I mean, who wants to drink that 30 degrees out on a hot day?
It would have to be
Some
before 8 a.m. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, nightcap.
Yeah, exactly.
The next one is Mr. Canoehead. So it's another hoppy guy. It's a hoppy pale ale, so you can put it in the red IPA group. Though for us, we just put it in a red ale when we submit it, and won bronze on the Canadian Awards.
Oh, cool. Cool.
And so it's far more balanced
Mm-hmm.
than the Hoppet. Still got that nice hop aroma and a little bit of bitterness, but way more caramel notes and a little bit of malt background.
I like that on a flight too, because it balances the flight as a whole. You know, it's not just one style or, you know, one flavor, but this will kind of balance it out in that regard. Maybe something a little bit different, which is kind of cool.
And this one went through, once we made it, that's what it was, but it went through a lot of pilot batches
Oh yeah?
to figure out what we wanted to do with it.
Did those ebb and flow as well? They were up and down?
Well, I started making a whole bunch of malt forward beers. So just like an American Amber, Irish Red, California Common.
Oh, cool.
But from the get-go, I kind of wanted hoppiness.
Yep.
And then we tried a bunch of different hop forward styles. So some with some pretty old school hops like Nugget and Cascade. And finally, I just said, well, wow, I really want Citra. So Citra and Cascade.
Can't go wrong with Citra.
No.
Yeah.
It's always great.
So for someone who's never been here, how would you define like your focus in terms of the beer you're trying to create? Like, we have hazy IPA here, the red ale, an IPA, West Coast IPA. There's a lot of different styles, but would you sum it up in a few different flavors in particular?
Yeah, I think from the get-go, so our focus was initially just to get Thunder Bay, because that's our biggest customer, on board with trying craft beer.
Right.
So we kind of made styles that were super accessible from the get-go. And when we do kind of malt forward beers, we kind of keep it in style. And when we do hop forward beers, we kind of keep things in style. But we just want to push the edge of the limit with flavor. And that's really served us well to get everyone on board, because when we open, there's no craft brewery.
Right.
Your exciting beer was having a Guinness occasionally.
Yeah.
Everyone still thought Keith's IPA was an IPA. So it was kind of just bringing people along. And we step outside the box with our pilot system and see how people like it. But we're really trying to say, we all like every beer in-house. We're just trying to say, what do you guys like?
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of follow your lead.
Leave it open to them.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool too, being the brewery that has introduced people in this area to craft beer, right? Like, that must feel pretty good. That must feel nice. And then you see other breweries popping up as well, right?
You see other breweries, and when we opened was right at the same time Foundry opened.
Oh, nice.
So seeing them come along too with craft, and seeing Sovereign and Red Lion kind of push the craft envelope and get beers that we want to go try, bring them in. It's been awesome.
That's cool. So you guys are right on Lake Superior, and I know you work at Canada Malting Company. So that means your water and your malt are both sourced locally. How important is it to use local ingredients whenever possible with your beer?
It's very important. It's very important for kind of beer. So when you make beer, it's water, yeast, hops, and malt.
Yep.
And obviously malt and water are the biggest parts of it. So we're really fortunate to have Canada Malting close by. The guys from Canada Malting are pretty much in every day of the week for a pint after work, which is great. But to have that connection with them and see what they're doing, Plus, Lake Spear water is still phenomenal. It's great for making every style of beer. And we get to use that terroir of the local Thunder Bay, just like when you're having Burton style beer or Czech Pilsner. It started up because they're just using the water available.
Yeah, it's just kind of cool, right? How the water is like there is representative of the water that you would need to brew the beer that they actually comes from that area.
Yeah,
right? It's kind of cool.
And trying to do that yourself rather than saying, well, let me take this water and strip it down and then build it back up again to what I want it to be.
Right.
But we're lucky in that we can do that with Lake Spear water. It's good water.
So you guys have your beer in LCBO, beer store, grocery stores all over Ontario, and you mentioned Manitoba too. How much different would someone expect the beer to be here versus what they would find at one of those licensees? Like, do you have to come here to truly experience Sleeping Giant character?
I think for certain beers, expats from Thunder Bay can enjoy it. Manitoba and family down east will enjoy it. And certain beers are pretty much the same because we try and keep things tight in terms of our quality. But you're really not going to get the same hop character of a whiteout of a Beaver Duck unless you come here and have it on tap.
Right. Are there beers that you would produce here that you wouldn't even find in the LCBO?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
So probably about a third of our roster is available outside of Thunder Bay.
Right.
But on tap right now, we've got over 16 of our own beers and really can't try the pilots. So Avery, our other brewer, he just did a brute IPA that's phenomenal.
That's great style.
Yeah.
Love that style.
And we're not going to package that now, maybe in the future, but you can only get it here. We are on Beaver Duck, which is a session IPA. So again, another hop forward one. Very, very light caramel malt. Bit more refreshing.
I'm a big fan of this style too. Like having a sessionable IPA.
Yeah. It
is kind of an oxymoron, but it is great style.
It is. It is a good style. Yeah, session IPAs are probably one of my go-tos. Dry hopping, nice, 4.5% or less. So you can have one or two, and
yeah, and you still get that.
Still do things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you can have a few drinks and then not sacrifice flavor at the same time, which is nice. So I mentioned that we talked about being at the brewery, and I've never been here before. This is the first time that I've been here, and the place is huge. I don't want to make the joke, but it is truly giant, which is which is cool. It seems like a really
funny,
inviting and like welcoming place. And you guys take advantage of that. Like you host a bunch of events throughout the year, right? How important is that to have events, or how much fun is that to have events like St. Patrick's Day, Canada Day, and you guys do one for your birthday too, right?
Yep. Super fun. And we do Oktoberfest. It's kind of our biggest one is Oktoberfest and St. Patrick's Day. It's good to get that kind of crowd out. So you see a lot of your regulars, you see a lot of people just, they want to come out and have a party. But throughout the year, you see different community events where it's just people getting together. When you get together and have some beer, it tends to make the event better.
Right.
So it's not as stodgy and
everyone's loosening up a bit.
Yeah, a little tight. Last week there was a head shaving fundraiser for cancer.
Oh, cool.
And it was phenomenal. The amount of people who were just having fun, enjoying it on a Wednesday night. It's crazy.
That's awesome. It does seem like that's one of the ways that you guys really set yourselves apart from other areas. Is that like your dedication to the community is huge. Like you think about, you have a ton of local partners. You see it in the gift shop here. Like there's a hot sauce and the beard oil, and a number of other places. And then there's like Barley's Angels, right? And then using your platform to support a bunch of local charities. How important is it to not only be involved in the community, but also help to strengthen the community that is Thunder Bay?
It's probably, and if you're talking about marketing, I guess that's our marketing, but it's not because we chose that as marketing. It's because that's what we believe in.
Right.
Beard oil, hot sauce, those people were our friends before they started making soap and hot sauce. So how can you not support them?
Right.
You're wearing a Northeast shirt.
Yeah. Shout out to Nathan.
The guy who started the company worked for us, and he was my friend before I opened the company. He's drinking my home brew.
Right.
So how do you not support the place you live? Because you never know. You never know who you're gonna help. You never know how your community's gonna change and evolve just because you're being active and doing something for it.
It seems very like representative of Thunder Bay as a whole. You know, just being here and seeing it kind of has like these small town like communal vibes, right?
Mm-hmm.
From what I've heard from Chad about it as well, it seems like everyone really supports one another. So it seems like that would it makes sense that would be, you know, pouring over into what you have here, exactly.
Yeah, mutual support and respect. Like,
right.
Hopefully that's what everyone who opens a business or starts something in Thunder Bay wants to do, because that's the way to do business and be a community partner.
Right.
Whiteout's our newest one. Hazy IPA. Pretty straightforward hazy. You want to try and keep things, like I said before, accessible. Get people drinking hazies. And it's got a ton of mosaic and citra.
There's a bunch of like tropical aromas on this, like immediately, which is always inviting.
Mm-hmm. Very juicy. So this one had a couple pilot batches, but I think I knew what I wanted when we started making it. And now what happens is our staff really likes this one because it's less bitter than like classic hop forward beers. But they're like, why is Beaver Duck not taste as hoppy anymore? I'm like, because you're drinking these guys.
Yeah. I know, it's funny because now I'll have beers and I'm like, that's not too hoppy or that's not too bitter. And someone else will be like, what are you talking about? This is so intense.
Yeah, you just got to get the guy who drinks stouts and ambers to try it and be like, oh.
It's funny too, because if you go toward those styles for a little bit and then you come back to like an IPA, then it's like it resets your
rebalance.
Palate, right? Yeah. It's kind of cool. And I've talked about this like almost endlessly, but it's cool that there is no bitterness. I feel like people, when they hear hops, they're like, I don't like hoppy beers. You know, those people, it's like they're referring to bitterness, I think. And so with this style, it's loaded with hops, and this is super drinkable and super flavorful and like no bitterness on the end.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
It's years ago I would talk about, so I like a little bit of bitterness sometimes, but people would be like, well, I don't like hoppy beers. I'm like, well, hoppy and bitter are two different things.
Yeah.
You can have a nice flavorful session IPA that's not too bitter, but then New England's just kind of pushed it to the next level where it's sweet and not bitter, but still has that wonderful flavor.
Yeah, you're kind of using them for flavor and aroma as opposed to bitterness.
Yep.
It's funny because like if I drink a bunch of these and then I move back to like a very bitter IPA, I love it. Like it comes back and you're like, oh, this is great. Like, and then you move back to New England IPA and you're like, this is also awesome. Like you just go back and forth, you know what I mean? Getting the best of both worlds.
That's the nice thing about going to new breweries, right?
Yeah.
Get to try everything.
Try their style.
You go back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the big haze bombs seem to be like a big trend right now in craft beer.
Yeah, I think it just crosses so many different groups. Used to be that our associations would say fruity beers, that's what women want.
Yeah.
But women want flavor is what they want and what they really want. And they love hazy New Englands.
Yeah, I feel like everyone wants flavor. Yeah. Like I certainly do, for sure. And the fruity flavors are really good in beer. And it's cool how they've made like their introduction through craft beer.
Yep.
You know, it's pretty neat. The one other thing beyond the like community involvement, the other thing that I've known, which I've never encountered a brewery who's had this much emphasis on it, but is sustainability. Could you tell us about all the things you guys are doing in regards to that initiative?
I wish we could do more. Things get expensive, but it's more just from the get-go. You just try and do things right from the beginning. So at the beginning, try and minimize water usage as much as we can. Just don't pour everything down the drain if you can minimize things. Picked up Bulldog Energy. Make sure we're using renewable resources. Making sure from the get-go, same thing. I had friends who were farmers and got them on board with taking our spent grains,
Right.
and then mixing the yeast slurry in with that, so we're not dumping it down the drain. Just trying to keep those things from the get-go, and then there's more that we can add as time goes by. I think that's, you just got to think about those things. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be the guy who just built a solar farm.
Right.
But when you're doing something, you got to think, well, can we do this better? Can we make it more efficient? Don't just throw styrofoam out your window.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think our generation is probably just growing up like that.
And then the one thing that really stood out was like the stash the trash.
Mhm.
What was that all about?
It's more just, again, it's partnering with our local community. So Eco Superior, which is a facet of the city of Thunder Bay, they've been doing things where they're just trying to get people to recognize you live in a place, let's look after it. And years ago when we were at the old facility, it was let's have an event, because they do it every spring, and we will just support you by having a barbecue and giving beer to the volunteers.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then there's also like the clip top bottles too. I thought that was super interesting.
Mhm.
What's the difference between that and just like a regular bottle? Like, how does it work?
So the clip tops, that was it was a good choice, and that was actually Matt Pearson, one of the other owners. When he likes packaging, so when he goes away, he takes a look at it, and it's made from post-consumer recycled plastic,
Right.
and then it's reusable, and then it's also recyclable. So I mean, now the next step is you get things that'll biodegrade, which there's one brewery that's doing that. I think in eastern New England states, and it biodegrades, so it doesn't hurt turtles. But for us, those clip tops, our people here who use the clip tops, they just bring them back, clean them, sanitize them,
And reuse them every time?
Yeah, so that's way better than recycling.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. Sweet. Well, thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
I appreciate it. It was easy to do.
It's fun.
Perfect.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.